Can you list which country made the best cars by decade going back to the 60s? That's not very clean. That would probably be greenwashing. And like,
well, I would wager that Instagram and social media does far more damage.
For sure.
And it's way more popular than road and track. No offense, road and track. Like, I write for them.
GR Corolla, about this diff overheating thing. What up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Off the Record, like all of our other episodes, and like it should be. Off the Record is the best. The way it works is they are here to help you keep points off your record. It's that simple. Off the Record is a service that will connect you to qualified attorneys in a jurisdiction where you got pulled over for a moving violation. Could be a big one, could be a small one. You don't want to go to court, and you certainly don't want to plead guilty. That's where Off the Record comes in. If you get a ticket, just go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app and use code TSTPOD. That'll get you 10% off all legal services with Off the Record. Then you send them a photo of the ticket, give them a description of what happened, and Off the Record does the rest. I cannot tell you how many emails I get from people who used Off the Record, and it really helped them. They cleared it right up. Their success rate is unbelievable. Doesn't mean they're 100% perfect, but it's very, very high success rate. So go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app and use code TSTPOD to get 10% off all legal services with Off the Record. All right, on today's episode of the program, we are talking about NIMBYism and taking ownership over canyon roads. We're talking about the BRZ versus GR86 video. I review the Lexus GX 550 Overtrail Plus, and Zach gives us a preview of his Macan electric video, plus some great questions, including the best country to build cars from for each decade, and a whole lot more. It's the Smoking Tire Podcast. It's a cruise show. Let's go. We did the Road and Track like editors roundtable thing yesterday about the California. So it's like once a month, the editors of the magazine basically do a Zoom call to the Road and Track like members. There's a couple hundred people on it actually. I was surprised.
Oh yeah, it's the club, and they can kind of chit chat. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
A couple people wrote in the Q&A, like they were like super annoyed that we talked about the roads. The fucking NIMBYism is hilarious particularly because it's a national forest. Like
right.
It's public roads. Like literally they're for everybody.
Yeah.
and the idea that people get like really offended. Like they think it's just for them. They don't think like, oh, you talked about the roads, and so like bad drivers are going to come up here and like have more crashes. It's like, well, what if good drivers go up there and don't? And like,
well, I would wager that Instagram and social media does far more damage.
For sure.
And it's way more popular than road and track. No offense, road and track. Like I write for them. But like Instagram has how many millions of users, and there's plenty of videos of people doing really dumb stuff, and they name what road they're on in the Angeles Crest. Yeah, and that I think does more damage. The person who buys the magazine, is probably a more attentive and mature driver.
Probably, and there's step to buy a print magazine, and then, you know, assuming, of course, if you live in Los Angeles already, and if you do, you probably know about these roads. And if you don't, like, now you're talking about making a trip out of the whole thing. Like, you know, is that the kind of person who's going to do something like super stupid? And I don't know. It's weird because it's so obvious. It's a national forest. It's a public resource by definition. To like gatekeep that is like so NIMBY. It's like,
yeah. I mean, we met someone we were at Good Vibes once, and there was this father-son who had brought a Miata. Like they'd bought an ND together as a project, as a way to learn to drive and like get to know each other. And I thought it was great, and it was their first time in the canyons ever. I mean, the dad's like 48. You know, it's not like, and he grew up here, so they knew the mountains were there, but they hadn't explored the roads. Until they saw, I think it was Good Vibes post that brought them up there. So like there are some people local that probably don't really know what's up there.
Sure,
but I don't think like, the magazine's going to have a huge impact on that.
Yeah, and it's just like you're talking about a car magazine writing an issue about a state and how the state is. Imagine like getting mad because a travel magazine talked about a hotel or a restaurant and then it got busy. You know, like, okay, like that's how life works.
Do you remember in the Bourdain documentary, him and that chick he dated at the end were at some restaurant? He's like, do you want to name it? Because then no one will be able to get in here. And she was like, well, then let it get busy. Like, then the place will be successful.
And that actually was sort of a big difference between Bourdain and Guy Fieri, actually. When they had that like little beef, Bourdain and Guy Fieri,
they had beef.
there was a bit of a beef. Bourdain unfairly, in my opinion, and I do think he was a genius, but I think he unfairly shat on Guy Fieri a few times for the donkey sauce stuff and for, you know, some semi-hokey Americana type restaurants. And he also would criticize Guy for shining spotlights on local restaurants that would then get very busy. Whereas Bourdain very often would not say, he might say the name of the restaurant, but not exactly where it was. And sometimes he wouldn't say the name of the restaurant because he didn't want to ruin its sort of localness, right? But I can see arguments for both sides. But what Guy did that was never really talked about is if a show was on Triple D, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Dives got Triple D and Triple G. You know, and Triple D, if a restaurant was on Triple D, he would have an advance team go, not just to prepare the restaurant for the shoot, but with about a month before the show aired, the business would go so crazy once it was on Triple D that they would have business consultants come in teach restaurant owners how to manage that.
Wow.
So that it didn't become a shit show and the people who did come would have a good experience, and then you would genuinely have a functional, usable business boost. Whereas a couple times when Bourdain spots got blown up, they didn't do anything like that, and the place would get busy. They couldn't handle it. It became a shit show, and then they'd go out of business. And so that's why Bourdain kind of stopped doing that. But Guy sort of went the other way and said, let's figure out how to manage this. So
what a good human being, truly.
Yeah, best.
We know that he is because of all the charity work, but just that.
He's the fucking best.
Because there's two different ways to approach a show. Like, you know, I think they had very different reasons for going to different restaurants.
Right.
And Guy's show, it was clearly, we're going to come to your restaurant. It will get promoted because you're on the show. I mean, they want to go to feature a thing, but it will help. It's advertising.
Yeah.
Like, that's how so much of television works.
Yeah.
And then prepare the people to handle that is great.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Smart and also like just good shit. Now, in the context of talking about a road on a mountain, look, go up there on a Saturday. It's not like this place is a secret. It's fucking
so
people.
Busy.
There's people all over the place.
Yeah.
People are fucking all over the place. And yet, go up there when we're up there because we've used fucking two brain cells to go, I'd like to enjoy a road when it's not busy. When should I do that? It's not fucking rocket science. And guess what? It's empty. Shocker. I've gone to Tail of the fucking Dragon and run clean 3-4 times. Why? Because I got up early and I went to fucking Tail of the Dragon before 9 a.m. Shocker. So like, this whole thing of like, you're going to make it busier, go early. If that's what if you want a clean road.
Yeah. So, I don't think the magazine will have a noticeable effect.
I don't either, but I just like, I don't like NIMBYism. I don't like NIMBYism of a specific public resource that is designated to be a public resource. And I don't like the idea that you shouldn't talk about a road. Fuck out of here.
Yeah. It's a weird, it's like the surf spot thing, which I think is a more finite resource, especially like in LA, there's like one good surf spot in Malibu.
Right.
So that is tough. The demand is really, really high. But with the road, it's 80 miles long, depending on which one you decide to take. Like, there's plenty of space.
Yeah. And, like, I'm not going to, like, not talk about it so that you local, you know, will be the only person that knows it exists. The fuck out of here. You know? It's like loser shit. It is.
I just think it's silly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super silly.
I don't think if people like that are listening, I don't think you have to be as worried as you are.
Yeah, I mean, So you were right. Social media, Instagram, stuff like that, of people actually doing dumb shit on those roads, as opposed to a curated 12-page magazine spread with handmade maps and professional photography. I mean, that's, you know.
I mean, look, at GMR, there have been kids, and I say that like high school and you know, early 20s, that we know go up there at night to try to drift. They crash. They toge it. Like, they drive at night. They cross double yellow. I mean, we've heard of this. We've seen some of it. That happened before the magazine came out because those folks live there, and they looked up at the mountain and they thought, I bet there's some twisty roads up there.
Yeah.
So it's just like the demand is there without the article.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But it just
I get it.
Get over yourselves. It's not like to my haters. It's not one of that. It's just like it's like
you gonna write a whole album about this, like Drake?
No, it's just anything where you're not supposed to. It's the same shit where it's like if you buy a car, and now we're making videos about the ownership experience of a collector car. And why did you buy it? Well, you wanted one, but also it seemed like it's underpriced and is a safe investment to buy the car. Maybe it'll go up in value, whatever. No, you're fucking ruining it for the rest of us. You know, these cars were affordable and now they're not anymore, and you're talking about it and it's driving up the value. It's like, so get in the fucking game. You know, it's not our responsibility to keep cars cheap for you.
Well, also, think of how much content about cars is about great cars from the past.
Yeah.
So much of it.
Yeah.
I mean, so many articles and videos and podcasts and everything. Like, that's Radwood. Radwood is a celebration of 2 decades of car, a lot of which were sort of like weren't getting the press they deserve, but were really good cars. And that brings a lot of people together. And it's an exciting part of the hobby. But that means more people will pay attention to those cars. Yeah. And you're sure they might get more expensive.
Now someone's going to pay $35,000 for a Civic Si or whatever.
But, you know, you don't have to gatekeep that stuff. Like, if you own one, great. You're probably excited the value went up. And if you don't yet, look, that does suck. Especially if something goes from $2,000 to 10, like 350Zs, I should have bought one when they were $3,000. Okay.
You should have, but that's the process is I should have bought it when it was this much, not you're an asshole for talking about it and making it go up.
This is breaking up with someone and then realizing how great they were in hindsight, and you can't get them back. Someone's like, I should have bought that car when it was $3,000. Yeah. I didn't realize it's actually worth $12,000.
Yeah. It was a good value at $3,000.
Yeah.
You should have got in the game.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. That's just it's like when you fucking, that guy, I forgot, that fucking guy that tried to race me, and you're like, this is every cowboy movie. That's really funny.
Oh, yeah.
I just listed a client's car on P-Car Market. It was a fucking bitch to do the listing because the car has over $200,000 in service receipts since 2015.
What? Is it a Countach?
No, it's a 68 911S bare metal restoration.
Is this the one that had the trans swap?
Yes, trans swap. Yes.
$200,000.
Yeah.
Oh, because it's bare metal restoration.
Bare metal restoration, and then an engine rebuild on top of that, and then the trans swap, and so it was like 50 pages of service records I had to go through. It's beautiful though. It's on P-Car Market right now. 1968 911S, 68 911s. The S is very, very rare.
21 hours ago.
Yeah, that's it. It's a beautiful car, deep burgundy. We've got it here at WCCS Playa Vista.
Oh yeah,
great color combo. I drove it.
Interior is nice.
Yeah, scroll down to the interior. The interior is really, really pretty. It's deep burgundy over a tan with a pepita, which I really like. Runs really strong, drives good, be a great car. 90,000 kilometers, and the S in 1968, very, very rare. Not sold in North America. This is a European spec car. 227 built total. That's it. So 69, 70, much, much, much more common. 68S is super, super rare. It was delivered new as a Sportomatic. And it was converted by our buddy Marco at TLG Auto last year into a 5-speed manual with a correct 901 transmission. So there's interesting, like, you know, there's an argument that it might be more valuable if it had the original Sportomatic, but I don't think most people who want 911Ss want to drive a Sportomatic. So a professionally installed manual might be, I don't know. It's actually a sort of an interesting question of, it's better to drive with a manual, but it's not original. So what will people want? But anyway, lovely car on P-Car Market. 6.5 days left in the auction. Check that out. The BRZ video, BRZ versus 86. BRZ versus Corolla GR. That's up on YouTube. I don't know what's going on with that thing. I don't know why it didn't hit. It feels like it had the elements. It's a street and track comparison. It's two relatively affordable cars, two of the cheaper sports cars that are on sale today. I mean, I don't know if they're the cheapest cars, but they're just about the cheapest sports cars on sale today. It's pretty close.
You could do like a Elantra N or something. Like one of those things would be less expensive for sure.
But like pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, almost the cheapest sports cars on sale today. And it's a comparison test. I don't know. It seems like it should have hit. Zach did a great job editing it. I mean, we got free track time, and there's a fun race at the end.
I know. Feels good. Well, go watch it, folks. Go watch it. We're proud of it, and I got good comments from the people who watched it. They said it was very entertaining. And
I thought it was too. It's like 35 minutes long, and it's a great video, but it just didn't hit. I don't really like shitting on the Cybertruck, that hit. Surprise. But like other than that, like what does it take these days? I don't
know. Because if I look to the right, one of our friendly competitors has a video called 10 Most Fun New Cars Under 40 Grand, and it has 200,000 views.
But that's not them driving them all. No. That's probably just them sitting there talking, right? It is.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's like what this fucking podcast is. Haven't we done a show?
Totally done that, yeah.
Haven't we done that exact thing? Mm-hmm. Like, why didn't that get 200? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, I don't know. I'm just so confused by fucking YouTube. It's very frustrating because it seems like the stuff that takes the most time and effort and energy just like doesn't. That Cybertruck video we made in like 2 hours.
Yeah, but I mean that was hype beast.
Obviously,
like, I know what you mean.
But like, I don't want to be a guy who fucking makes videos like that.
Right, where it's just like, here are all the things I don't like.
Yeah,
people would make those videos about cars that were great cars.
Yeah,
and it was kind of clickbait.
And it's a little silly, but like, well, they're entitled to their opinion, of course.
They are. It's just not the style of video I want to make.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. Maybe we're just old and done. Is that it? Are we just old and done?
We might be. This probably isn't good for the algorithm. I don't know. Maybe we need to adapt something, but I don't know what to adapt.
Yeah. Like we tried doing the written scripted type videos. They did better, but not better enough that they were worth the time.
True. Well, in this video we did was actually similar time in.
Yeah.
Similar labor put into this video. Simpler production slightly, but
I mean simpler in terms of the fact that I didn't write a script. So
that's true. That's the only thing that was different.
Yeah.
Otherwise, same.
But like the writing this, like if we note for note, like if I did a video where I wrote a script versus a video where I didn't write a script and the car was like a new hot car, it probably would have done the same. Like it's not like it literally has to do with the hotness of the car, but only to a point. Like new Porsche sports car, hot. Mm-hmm. Spider RS, hot. Didn't matter that I wrote a script. It still would have been hot. But like new McLaren, no, because there's like a backlash against supercars right now. And there's a backlash against like hybridization. There's a backlash against all that kind of stuff. Oh, it's all the fucking same, right? But like, maybe we'll see how Z06 does, even though we're late on it. But like, there are just, we thought that like affordable cars, because people come to us for genuine consumer advice, that affordable cars would be what would do it. But like, no, it's like Tank City. I'm just confused by the whole thing.
Well, I don't know. Maybe BRZ TS. So someone else who makes videos that usually do really well, I looked up their BRZ TS video, and it's 85,000 views at 5 months, which
there was an article
low.
today that said the GR86 is doing really well in sales, and the BRZ is doing horrible in sales.
I believe that.
Which is really interesting because they're the same car.
Oh, yeah, but GR's marketing has been, Toyota's marketing has been so good in the last, 2-3 years, like Sweatpants Media and all that stuff. Like, they've been doing funny stuff.
Should we just retitle the video as if it's a fucking GR86?
That would be very funny. With an asterisk on it? Sure, I'll try that.
Just change the fucking center car.
It might be. The BRZ, people may not be searching for that because Toyota's, with GR, I mean, they have so many products. And so it makes sense for them to put money into going, look at all of our awesome motorsports stuff. And Subaru is like, we climb mountains. By the way, we also sell this. We don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, they know why, but like
maybe
it's in the dealership.
It would be funny if it was the BRZ's TS-ness that was really the problem.
You mean the Subaru's BRZ-ness?
Yeah, like the fact that it's got the wrong badge on it. That is what sunk that video. Guys, we got to take one quick break for Auto Tempest. The Auto Tempest app is here. Make sure you download that app when you want to search for a new car. It is so easy. It brings all of the stuff that we love from Autotempest.com onto your home screen on your Apple or iOS device. It makes looking for a car so easy. I have been on the hunt for a car, checking every other day the entire internet using Auto Tempest. I don't have time to go to every single website like car.com, TrueCar, eBay Motors, Carvana, and more, right? I don't have time to check Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist nationwide. Fortunately, the Auto Tempest app searches listings from all the top sites online and puts them all in one place rather than searching a bunch of sites separately. And one thing I love about the Auto Tempest app is it remembers my search criteria. That way, it's repopulated. When I open the app again, it's still there. I just click that one button, search again, and it searches again, right? And I'm not telling you people out there what kind of car I'm looking for because I don't want you to snag up the car that I want. Like when I was about to buy a Quicksilver 4 GT, talked about it on the show, and then a fan bought it, and I'll never be able to afford one ever again. That's not happening. I'm not telling you nothing till I buy a car. But Auto Tempest makes looking for the car easy. They can even include results from Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, not just in your local area, nationwide. The Auto Tempest app has all the cars in one search. Head to autotempest.com/tire or download the Auto Tempest app for iOS and Android to get it on your home screen. That's autotempest.com/tire. Start searching for your next car or download the Auto Tempest app to get it on your home screen. We're also supported by Tinker today. Tinker is a new mobile app offering one-to-one live help for auto DIYers, letting them work with Tinker certified automotive experts instantly via live video chat for quick answers for all car topics. It's like having a pro mechanic in your pocket for all of those burning car questions. Whether you're a seasoned car hobbyist with a weekend build or just trying to save some time and money doing auto repairs yourself, Tinker has you covered. All the experts are vetted and have professional mechanic experience or are ASE certified. There is stuff that I would like to do on my own car, but I am honestly afraid to do it. I don't trust myself to break something or mess something up. So if I were to find this car on Auto Tempest, like I just talked about, it would be a project car. There would be lots of work involved. It's not a plug-and-play play situation. And with Tinker in my pocket, you know what? I am definitely going to be needing it, right? There's a lot of things I'm going to need to do on this car to make it what I want. And I'm going to need an experienced mechanic to help walk me through it. So that's what Tinker is for. The app is currently available for download on the Apple App Store. So head down there right now and download the Tinker app. It's like having a pro mechanic in your pocket. Like had we gotten a GR86 instead of a fucking BRZ TS, that would have been the difference, even though they're functionally identical cars.
True. I was going to look up the sales numbers of the last TS.
I mean, TS in general is like a horrible like nomenclature. So I'm not entirely like I'm not surprised. Although our WRX TR, what is that? What was the WRX one?
TR.
That video did well.
Yeah.
So it's like if people just, yeah, that would be very interesting.
You want to get sad?
Yeah. Sadder. Is this someone else's BRZ TS?
Yeah.
Extra throttle house? Yeah, 377,000 views. Yeah, cool, man. Well, they have like 7 people to support. So if they don't get that, they probably make the same amount of fucking money on that video as we make getting a sixth as many views.
I like those guys.
I do too.
No shade intended.
No, he told us that.
I know.
Fucking Thomas told us that.
Thomas,
I hope he's cooking today. He texted me yesterday. He wanted my meat ragu recipe.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not surprised because it is the best goddamn fucking meat ragu.
Between that and his Alpha, he's more Italian than I am.
He's crushing right now. But no, they said that. We talked about their views and they were like, yeah, we have like 9 people to support with this fucking channel. So, but please go watch the video. I think it's a great video. I think it's fun. It's got all the elements that one might ask for out of a fucking car review video. And also, I read some of the comments on that. And I try to not read some of the comments. I try to stay out of that now to keep from my sanity. But so many people were shitting on the the GR Corolla about this diff overheating thing. Oh yeah. And I just have to put it out there. I've now tracked 3 different GR Corollas. Granted, they were all press cars. Okay, so maybe Toyota's doing some sneaky shit. I don't know, but I've run these cars really hard at the track.
But for how many laps or minutes?
Well, I did it for a whole bunch in this video, right? And then we did it for a whole bunch. We ran them all day at Performance Car of the Year with like 10 different drivers. I've never experienced this. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying, A, it could be press cars that they've prepped differently with some type of high temp fluid. B, it could be random, right? It could just be, anecdote is not data. And I'm not necessarily saying that that people are not having this issue or exaggerating it. My friend Ryan, who was down this past week, is a literal, shout out to Ryan, literal talented club racer and a driving instructor. And tracks his at Thunderhill every weekend, like a lot. Tracks his GR a bunch. It's a circuit. Stock. Except for he put like super sticky tires on it, and he's like, I'm probably going to snap the axles because it's like, it's awesome, like a lot of grip. But like, we were joking about it because he was like, have you heard people talking about the fucking diff overheating? And I was like, yeah, but it's like never happened to me. He's like, it's never happened to me either.
Wow.
Like,
so it happened to Jack from Savage Geese. Okay. He owned a long-term one, and he said he did have that problem on the track.
He's a good driver.
And he's a fast driver, and those guys are both like literal engineers. They studied engineering. Like, they're very meticulous about analyzing problems and stuff like that. So he did say he had that issue. And there are people on forums talking about it, but it may not be as common. It may be, but it's one of those things where if someone says they heard about it once, is it happening to everybody?
I don't know. And it might be your driving style.
Could.
Like Jack is a good driver, like no question. I've seen him we were on the track together in Taycan. Like, he's a good driver, but like, I've never been in the car with him. I don't know what his driving style is.
Aggressive in the canyons. I rode with him in the Vantage.
I think he is. I think he is pretty aggressive, right?
Yeah.
And I think
he was good, but he was aggressive.
Well, what Ryan said, what he thought was that he thinks that if you drive it a certain way, then you do overheat the diff, and if you drive it in a way that is less reliant on the rear diff, meaning trail braking deeper and not trying to like snap, huck and then slam the.
Oh, okay.
That he thinks that it could be related to driving style, which is something something I agree with.
That would suck. I will say that would suck. And that makes sense because if it's an intelligent all-wheel drive system, right? So it's sending power and torque all over the place. And if you drive it like a front-wheel drive car, it probably sends more of the torque to the front than the back. But it would suck, and it's something you said in the review is like the drift mode and the all-wheel driveness is like a little bit of a party trick. So
the all-wheel drive works, but the drift mode for sure, like it's not as oversteery as you might hope it would be.
Right. So if someone drives it like a rear-wheel drive car and puts even more load on the rear, then I guess it strains the diff. But it sucks to have a car that is all-wheel drive and then have to drive it in a certain way to protect it from itself. That's a bummer.
It's true. I just my suggestion, what I'm implying is that I don't think the problem is as pervasive as people are suggesting that it is.
Yeah.
And also I think like whether it's the Audis, I mean, all of those Haldex type systems they're the front wheel drive based all wheel drive systems. They're just not like, it's better than if it was purely front wheel drive, but it's not the same as a rear wheel drive based all wheel drive system.
Very true. And so on Reddit, some people are talking about it, and one person says that their issue is that the rear clutch pack's overheating. So when they wrap their exhaust in, heat wrap, which prevented some heat from getting to that diff. But that's a really small pumpkin back there.
Yeah.
Compared to a rear-wheel drive car. And like my car, my M3, has all kinds of cooling fins on that diff housing.
Yeah.
I don't know if this does, but I know that the housing is smaller. So if you have less fluid, it's easier for it to heat up. It's harder for it to cool down. Mm-hmm. And if you overwork it, like you said, then maybe that is the issue. But it's a bummer. It's definitely a bummer.
Yeah.
55. Someone's making a liquid cooler for the all drive system.
Yeah, well, cool. I mean that's like an air to oil intercooler. Diff cooler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I mean diff cooler basically.
But I think that you could probably drive it a little aggressively and a little less aggressively and still go really fast. And the diff would be less likely to overheat.
That would be a good video for someone like Ryan to do. Like, drive one lap,
measure
the way he does.
Measure temperature.
Measure time. No, measure lap and time.
Yeah, yeah.
And just see, like, is it a tenth? Is it zero?
It's like Robert Duvall in Days of Thunder. You run 50 laps like you wanna, and then 50 like I tell you to. You know what I'm saying?
I remember that.
Tom Cruise is like burning through tires really fast.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes, you drive like I want you to drive, your tires will last longer and you'll go faster.
Well, that's I can't remember, is it, not Dan Gurney, who was it? Fuck, there's someone from back in the 60s who was known, their teammate drove the shit out of the car and they could run the same time and the car came back with pads left, tires left, etc. Like just gentler but fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one thing that, not that I'm the fucking best driver in the world. I'm definitely not. I try, I practice, but I think when I drive, I'm very easy on the car. I'm like incredibly mechanically sympathetic, and I bring that to my driving, whether I'm on the street or on the track. And that's why I make a good teammate in my endurance series. I bring the cars back 100% ready for the next person to race, and I'll only be, a half a second a lap off the super, super fast guy. And that's why I make a good teammate. So I don't know, maybe I am not pushing a car like quite as fast as it could go, but maybe it'll last longer with me driving it than with somebody else. I don't know. But
I would agree with you because I've ridden with you and I've ridden with, we had an instructor friend of ours I rode with at Gingerman once, and I was like, I've never ridden with someone who drove this way, like super aggressive on brakes, super hard on turn-in. fast, but very different from like the gentler tip in and then add corner. So here's an example of one aftermarket solution to the GR thing.
Oh, that's like a 3D printed like scoop that just ducts fucking air right at the pumpkin.
So what you can see though, I don't know if there's aftermarket exhaust. I was trying to find photos, but the exhaust for this car runs, in the stock one I saw, runs underneath the diff.
Oh.
So it's like the stock exhaust literally goes right here.
Oh, so yeah, so the heat just goes straight up and straight into the diff.
Yeah, you're baking cookies.
Now I wonder, let's just hypothesize, the cars that have diffs that overheat, has the exhaust been modified? If you're running, let's just say you run a fucking downpipe, right? I mean, and I'm just throwing shit at the wall here, right? But let's say you run a downpipe, and the cat, which normally would dissipate some of that heat, is gone. So now the exhaust that's passing under the diff is hotter than it otherwise would have been if you had cats.
Maybe. I mean, here's GR Corolla Forum. Someone says, has anyone had any problems? This person says, I've had 0 issues. I drive it track 50/50 the whole time. That's a great question.
I don't know. And again, I'm literally throwing shit at the wall. So I don't know. And maybe all aftermarket exhausts route away from the diff. Maybe, I don't know.
So this looks like a stock system. So the exhaust is
next to it.
It's next to it, and then here it's kind of under it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and the pumpkin's small. I mean, it has fins on it, but it is a very small unit.
I think if you're serious about tracking the car, and that aftermarket intercooler, the scoop thing is cool, or the liquid cooler, or the cooler, whatever you want to call that thing.
Yeah,
that could be cool.
But this is an interesting case that some people that track their cars have no problems, and some people have problems. So it's,
I think there's no. I think what's unsaid there is the accounting for driving style. I think there could be people who go, this has the 30/70 rear setting.
And they set it to rear.
They set it to rear. Yeah. They drive it in a way that makes it slide more, that spins up the diff more.
For funsies.
Yeah. And they overheat the diff doing that. I think that's totally possible.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not 100% of the problem, but totally possible. I don't think it's necessarily a design flaw. I mean, it could be within the limitations of cost. It could be, that Toyota expected that certain type of people who are going to track their car that much are going to modify them anyway.
Maybe we'd have to read the manual and see it. Like, does it say something about track use and say run it in 50/50, not 30/70, because of overheating issues? I don't know. I
played with the diffs a lot on the track. I didn't find a huge amount of difference from 50/50 to 30/70. Not huge. You're still not doing big fucking drifts. On a loose surface, maybe different.
In my Subaru, I only noticed the difference on snow.
Yeah.
In tarmac driving,
no. You might notice a difference on snow or dirt or something. But on the track, I didn't feel that much different. If you put it in 60/40 front, then I would notice the difference. But from 50/50 to 70/30, not much different. So,
interesting.
Yeah. But it is still a front-wheel drive based system. Yeah. So there are limitations to what you can do with it. I don't know. That was more than I had planned to talk about that, but okay.
We're going to get to the bottom of this stuff.
Yeah. Investigative journalism.
Yeah.
So I drove the Lexus GX 550 over Trail Plus.
Right.
Haven't talked about that yet. Took it off-roading, me and Tim A. Didn't make a video. I was going to make a video. I shot all the fucking beauty shots. I was ready to go, and then I was stopped by the park police. Guys, we got to take one more quick break for Factor. Warmer and sunnier days are here. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Whether it's wellness goals or whether you're traveling, whether you're working hard, spending time with family, and you're just busy, Factor has you covered. They've got so many options, different categories like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. No matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Maybe today is the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. You guys know me. I forget to eat, leading me to make poor eating decisions, right? If I get too hungry, I'm going to eat the first thing I see. I'm going to order food. I'm going to stop somewhere unhealthy. But with Factor in the fridge, I am always making the healthy choice. They've got 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, so you'll always have new flavors to explore. You can make your day delicious. From breakfast to dessert, stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Plus, keep your kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in just 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Head over to factormeals.com/tire50 and use code TIRE50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code TIRE50 at factormeals.com/tire50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. And thank you to Factor for supporting the Smoking Tire. Then I was stopped by the park police. They told me that I will not be shooting a video
you said, okay.
in the park.
Yeah,
and so I decided that this particular video would probably not make much money, and it wasn't worth risking a $600 ticket and having my gear confiscated. So we went off-roading out it, and there's plenty of pictures. It kind of sucks that the photos don't really show how steep the trail is. It's not a like Rower where we shot this. It's not like the hardest trail in the world, but it is the hardest trail in the area. Mm-hmm. And it's a good. I think it's a good barometer for being about as hard of a trail as most regular people would take a stock SUV.
Oh, definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
And what's cool about this Lexus is this thing's stock is pretty much where like a pretty well-built aftermarket setup would have been 5 or 6 years ago. It's got the two locking diffs, the center and the rear. It's got the low range. It's got 10-speed gearbox. It's got all these different features with the multi-terrain monitor and this the KDSS, which can disconnect the front and rear sway bars independently. The last generation one could do them together, but this can do it independently, which is really cool. It's got the big 33-inch Toyo open country tires.
Wow.
It made off-roading pretty easy. And granted, I didn't stop on any of the really hard sections to take pictures. I stopped kind of in between the hard sections. Mm-hmm. The bottom of the trail had been graded, so that huge hole that is very sketchy,
yes,
they actually fixed that.
That's good.
So that, because after the rains, I imagine it was like a nightmare.
Impassable, yeah.
But the top half, they hadn't touched. So the top half was pretty rocky and challenging. I did need to use low-range, full-lock diffs to get up the top half.
Cool. Okay.
So I had to use the stuff to get up there. It was a really nice thing to off-road in. It was just really capable. And there's people that like want off-roading to be hard. And I get that because like I like driving sports cars with a stick and shit like that. But like I don't want off-roading to be hard. I kind of want off-roading to be like, I want the trail to be challenging, but I don't want it to be hard to drive the truck.
You don't want to enter one of the winch competitions.
Yeah. I want to be able to press a couple buttons and be in the right mode and then get up the things, mm-hmm. you know. It's got this front, the front camera like Land Rover does too, that when you're like over this obstacle we're showing, like when your nose is pointed at the sky, you can then see what's on the other side. That's really helpful. And I love how this truck looks. I think it looks great. I think it's like any other Lexus. It's built really nicely. We drove it on. We went off-roading for like 4 hours, no rattles, no squeaks, and this is a pre-pro truck. The visibility is excellent. It's really the right size for the trail and for the road. I think
it'd be big on a tight trail, but here this is a lot of open space. It's not that
wide. It feels about the same width as like a Bronco, like not a Bronco Raptor, like a regular Bronco.
Yeah, normal.
It's pretty much the same footprint as a 4-door Defender or a 4-door Bronco. I mean, within a couple percentages either way. The visibility was great. The engine, which is the turbo motor, I know there's been some reliability issues with some of the turbo motors in last year's Tundras. I think they've sorted it for this year's trucks.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I hope so. It's about the same with, I think mirrors to mirrors is actually narrower than Badlands.
Okay, yeah. It doesn't feel very wide.
And all the things you said, like detachable sway bars and stuff like that stuff that I remember when that came out on the Jeep Wrangler like Rubicon a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it was game changer.
Yeah.
You know, the electronically disconnecting sway bars is so incredible.
It does it without you needing to do anything. Like you don't know it's doing it.
Oh, really?
It just does it. Yeah,
it's not on stop and hit the button.
No,
or anything.
no,
Wow.
it just does it. And there's so many drive modes. There's 6 tarmac drive modes and then 4 loose surface drive modes.
6 tarmac?
Yeah. Comfort, normal, wet, sport, and sport plus. And then auto, I think. And then there's like dirt, rocks, mud, snow. So maybe there's 5. I thought there were 6, but maybe there's 5 for tarmac and 4 for off-roading. There's a bunch of modes.
I would love if Lexus could collect all the data and tell me how many times any owner they use Sport Plus around the world.
Here's what's really surprising. Sport Plus, and I found this with Defender, the car actually handled pretty well. I mean, for what it is. For what it was. The paddle shifters on the gearbox, pretty responsive. As responsive as you'd ever need them to be.
8-speed.
10 speed automatic. So the paddle shifters were responsive enough. And it handled, despite the tires and the fact that it's body on frame. You know, we came down on, we went up and over the mountain and came down on the Bouquet Canyon side. So we took Bouquet Canyon Road out. Not bad. I mean, actually not terrible.
Yeah, that's the era we're in now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty incredible.
And the off-roading modes worked exactly as you want. We used dirt and there's the camera. We used the dirt and rock modes very often.
Is there a fingerprint on the lens?
There isn't, but it's something is going on with the photo of a screen.
Oh, okay.
There's just some kind of weird distortion there.
Got it.
I don't know exactly what it was. It doesn't really look like that. I will say you have to manually. A couple things I don't like about this truck. One is you have to manually turn off all the ADAS features when you go off-roading because go back that one photo of like the fucking parking sensors went batshit and it's like, dude, I'm off. It's like plants. I'm on a trail, and so like little stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like when I started approaching the departure, like parking sensor stuff. So you have to like turn all that shit off manually. I think when you put the car in rock crawl, those should just go away. My opinion.
I mean, I could see there's times where when I drove that ZR2, one of the rock trails we went on, we were next to a rock wall.
Yeah.
And like you could hit it if you weren't paying attention because it was like a 6-foot tall rock wall.
Yeah.
So having a parking sensor could help there. But was there a hard button or do you have to go in a menu?
Touchscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, not great. Not great. And so that was one. The front camera would sort of come and go on its own. Now, there was a hard button to bring it up, but it would also come and go on its own.
Usually above a certain speed, right?
No, when things would get close.
Oh.
When you passed a certain angle, I think it was. So I don't know. That was weird. The hood, which is very flat, above 60 or 70 miles an hour, vibrates.
Really?
Not the whole hood, but the center section of
flexes.
Because
That's disappointing for a Lexus.
Not great.
Yeah.
Like a rental Mustang.
Yeah. Wow.
Not great. And it was made like the thing with it's a body on frame truck, right? And I don't like how body on frame trucks drive on the street. You have those secondary vibrations. You know, with a unibody, it's da-dum. When you go over a bump, da-dum, da-dum. With this, it's da-dum. You know what I mean? There's the extra.
Yeah. Well, I rode in it to your house for like 5 minutes, and I was like, huh, this kind of feels stiff.
It rides real
trucky.
trucky.
On frame thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's real trucky. And so there's going to be a lot of people who want to buy one of these because of how it looks, and they're going to drive it exclusively on tarmac. And like, it's not like bad. And if you don't drive a whole bunch of vehicles, like you might get used to it or you might not even care. But like I did, and I drove it for 10 minutes and I went, oh, this is not what I would want to be using as a regular street car. It's just, it doesn't ride like a crossover or a unibody SUV. Like would just ride much better. It doesn't feel like it doesn't ride like a luxury car, even though it's $80,000.
It does not, yeah.
You know, it handles pretty well and it stops. It's pretty reasonably quick in a straight line. I think it's like 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. And you can get all these ARB accessories from the dealer. I mean, it's pretty it's definitely the most rugged factory Lexus ever made because it's based on the Land Cruiser Prado, you know, architecture. It's like in that Land Cruiser family. But it does feel very trucky. And if I wanted a rugged SUV that was going to spend most of its time on the road, the Defender is much better at that. It drives a lot better on tarmac, and it has basically the same equal levels of capability off-road. Now, is it Lexus dependable?
Reliability?
Probably not. And okay, that's a thing. But this is real trucky.
But ride for ride.
Ride and handling, Defender all day. All day. This is basically like if you want a better built Bronco, that's what this is. This is a Bronco with $20,000 of extra build quality on it, pretty much. That's what this feels like. The dynamics of it are quite similar to a high-end Bronco.
Gotcha. And actually, which Bronco trim comes with electronically disconnecting sway bars?
I have absolutely no idea. Probably one of the higher ones.
The price might be kind of close.
It might be. Yeah, I mean, this overlaps. And this was the Overtrail Plus. So the Plus gets you power tailgate, massage seats, and a Mark Levinson stereo. You can whack 10 grand off the price of that if you don't want those things. You can get the regular Overtrail for $69,250. So that's actually a pretty good value. It's the Overtrail Plus, but like, is this the kind of vehicle where you want massage seats or need the Mark Levinson stereo? Like, probably not. The Mark Levinson stereo is only okay. It's not mind-blowing. But wherever I went with this thing, people were really into it. I got asked about it a lot. People wanted to sit in it and check it out, and there's a lot of good things about it, but it's real trucky. And I think if people are expecting a true Lexus ride on the street, you're not going to get it. It's not that. I haven't driven the premium ones though, but it's still body on frame. I don't see what would be different.
I misspoke. The Badlands is like 50 grand, and that comes with electronic sway bars. So this is still more expensive.
Yeah, I figured
but it is a Lexus.
I figured this would be more expensive.
And this is probably quieter on the highway.
That was impressive. It considering the knobby tires and considering the body on frame and considering it's a square. It was actually very quiet on the highway. And other than the vibrations, I wouldn't mind driving it, a long way. And it has a lot of room in the back seat, really big trunk. The Overtrails are a 5-seater. They don't get the third row. So you got to get one of the other trims to make it a 7-seater. But I definitely respect it for people who want to do some overlanding and stuff, but it's not what I would choose if I was driving on tarmac 80% of the time. But if you live in the mountains and you go camping a lot, it's great. It would be really good for that.
Nice.
Yeah. And I did have fun off-roading it. This section of the trail that we're looking at right now, it's not like super, super challenging in terms of rock crawling. And you got to understand, people, when we're driving these things off, I don't want to break them. I'm trying to not bring them back damaged. It's not my goal to push the thing to the limits to the point it breaks. It's to find out, okay, a regular person buying this thing, keeping it stock, wanting to have a little fun with their family on the weekend. That's kind of where we're at here. If you're super, super hardcore, yeah, maybe you need bigger tires or maybe you want to push your own Lexus GX to the limits, have fun. This is like a borrowed truck. So it's about see what it can do, see how the tech works, Is it easy to get up this steep trail that's about as steep as most people will ever do? And when the same folks that like mildly threatened me about taking my stuff, they were maintaining the trail. So they said to us, like, hey, you know, the bottom of this trail is fine, but the top's real fucked up. And I was like, well, are we going to make it? And he's like, I don't know. So, like, they weren't 100% certain that we could get up it, and we did.
Mm-hmm. Well, if it got rockier from the rain, because the rain washed more dirt away, it just pronounces those rocks.
The top was challenging. Yeah. I mean, it was doable.
Well, we did this 2 years ago in a Bronco Sport.
Yeah.
Was this harder because of the rain? I mean, that's
the bottom
2 years
was
of rain.
easier and the top was harder.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bronco Sport probably would have made it, but it might have struggled a little bit. Yeah. So, I mean, I think what Lexus is selling is impressive in terms of capability and in terms of fit and finish and quality. Body on frame trucks are not for me. Which, like, if you know that, like, all right.
Yeah, but some people love them. So.
Yeah. And then we've got the Macan. By the time, not patrons today, but everyone else tomorrow who gets the show, the Macan EV video will be up.
Yes.
Did we thoroughly talk about it yet or not really?
I think we did. I don't remember.
I don't either.
Have like 9 videos in the can.
I don't either. How's the video look, though?
Pretty good. Their video team shot some stand-ups with me, which look really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And they did nice camera movement while I was standing there gibbering. And we got to park 4 feet from the ocean, like on a pier. And I was like, man, people better pay attention to if they're in driver reverse right now. This is like, there's no guardrail or anything. But it was interesting watching my stuff back as I cut it after having driven the Ioniq 5 now. Because at the time I hadn't driven it. I think you had driven it.
Yeah.
A bunch of other people. But
I think I was there at the same time. I think I was there while you were in France.
Maybe you were at
That's why I couldn't go.
Thing.
Yeah.
So I think this car does feel a little heavier. It is. It's 500 pounds heavier. But Porsche being Porsche, between the rear steer and the clever suspension and everything, like, this thing hauls ass. It is still the lifted rally car that the regular Macan was. I think what's great about the Macan 4, so there's 2 trim levels. There's Macan 4 and Macan Turbo. Macan 4 is like 360 horsepower, 479 torque. So it makes 200 more pound-feet of torque than the Macan T did.
Yeah.
And if you option a Macan T, like, you're priced next to the 4. So I think what's cool about this is the base one is now fast. It's like, it's not a momentum Macan anymore, you know, like the Macan T was.
Right.
And you get all the handling dynamics. The Turbo is, of course, insane. Like, in overboost, it's like 811 pound-feet of torque, 630 horsepower at launch control. So it's this weird thing, like we've talked about before. The base electric cars are now quick and more exciting, and then the top tier one, is it as fast as the old Turbo was? Arguable, but at least it doesn't, get 12 miles per gallon when you're flogging it.
Right, and if you're driving them around at 20% throttle, they're the same.
Right.
Which is something that's interesting about electric cars. And an argument against buying the biggest, fastest one.
Right.
Because you have to be honest with yourself about how often am I going to use full throttle, and how often is full throttle in the slower one not enough. Mm-hmm. And so, to go back to my Mach-E ownership experience, why didn't you get the GT? It's faster. I had that Mach-E for 3 years. I think I put the pedal to the floorboard 5 times. And in every case where I hit the floorboard, it was sufficient.
But I think we've seen, this was really common with Model S's in the beginning, but people that bought the fast EV, same as us when we buy the fast gas car, they are more prone to going full throttle to show their friends or to experience that excitement. I think Macan owners in general, and this actually links to your dad with the Cayenne Turbo story, right? He owned a bunch of them for a long time, never really used more than 30% throttle.
Right.
But he liked the engine. He liked the idea of it. I think with this, most people will be totally happy with the Macan 4. It will feel quick. It handles great. You get the same suspension. You get the same rear steer. You can get most of the same goodies. And then you just don't need the bigger battery, the bigger motor, etc. If you want that stuff to show off, cool, or to get the expensive one, But other than having a quicker 0 to 60 time and like a slightly, you know, higher top speed, like the sensation is going to be really similar. I only drove the turbo. I didn't have time to drive both, but I know what 400 horsepower feels like. It's good.
Yeah,
you know, 630, exciting.
Yeah.
It was a really impressive vehicle, top to bottom. My only complaints about it were that there is like zero steering feel, and from a company that makes the best e-pass system in the world on their other cars, this was not it. Like there's just no steering feel. Most owners won't give a shit, but it's Porsche, so I wanted to mention that. There were a bunch of warning systems, ADAS things that I had to go deep in the menu to fix. Now, there's a lane departure hard button.
Yeah,
thankfully.
on the end of the blinker stalk, right?
The end of the blinker stalk. But there was a speed limit warning that was like deep in a menu. And there was another one that had, and this is probably me being unfamiliar with it, but there were two different functions. Sorry, there were two switches in the menus that seemed to do the same thing. But one was like, no, I want the system off. And one was more like, mute it for an hour. Oh. So I kept getting these alerts when I was driving. And I was like, why is this going off so much? And I had to find a different menu within a menu, and that fixed
As
the
long
alert.
as when you turn that shit off, it stays off.
It doesn't.
Every time you turn the car on?
Every time I turn the car on, it turned back on again, which I think is European regs.
I hope that's Europe only.
Just like Aston Martin.
I wouldn't give them my fucking
There was
money.
one alert that turned back on when I put it in park but didn't turn the car off. Like I parked, moved cameras, left car, quote, running, got back in, and then the alerts turned back on.
Oh, that's no good.
I had to cut out some expletive frustrations from my video.
I certainly hope that doesn't come to America.
But dude, I mean, the thing, it's what you expect. It is a good handling, exciting, practical thing, which is what the Macan was, and now it's silent. The tricky thing is the rear steer and the two-chamber air suspension, same suspension that the Cayenne Turbo GT had. You can only get those in America on the Macan electric. You can't get them if you get the ICE cars. Like, it's not even an option.
Yeah.
So they kind of sweeten the electric deal a little bit.
Sure.
And maybe they'll offer that in the future. But for now, if you want that cool stuff,
well, I think they're not going to redesign the gas Macan. I think that's going to...
That's true.
They'll make both for a while, and then they'll phase it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the only one you can get in Europe. You can't order gas Macans
Well, that
in Europe
was that software thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the only one for them.
Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah. All right. Well, check out the video for anyone listening to this podcast. Once it's public, non-patrons, you will. It's up now over on the channel. Zach went all the way to fucking France to make it. So please.
Oh, it's so difficult.
No one said it's difficult, but it's time consuming.
It was definitely time consuming.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, didn't you get stuck in fucking the Atlanta airport coming back, and it was...
No, that was coming back from Aston.
Oh, from Spain.
That was coming back from Aston.
Yeah.
I got to stay at the Atlanta Hilton.
Woo, boy.
Yeah. They were
very nice.
They were very nice.
Very nice.
Real quick before we get to questions. So a while ago we talked about, someone asked us about hot swap battery stuff, and we thought that had died. There is a company that has launched it in Norway.
Neo?
Yeah. So this company...
Yeah.
Which we saw, I thought that nothing had happened with this, and one of our listeners from Norway said, no, they have installed these. I found on the internet 53 Neo vehicles have been registered in Norway. Not a huge number.
53, huh?
Not a huge number, but it does exist, because we talked about how Tesla had that bullshit hot swap technology that wasn't really should go anywhere.
Yeah, mildly fraudulent.
Mildly fraudulent.
Mild to medium fraudulent.
Good album name.
Mild.
A good comedy album name. But Neo is apparently doing this with hot swap batteries, so it exists.
That's interesting. I wonder if, because I thought for sure in America that people would want ownership of battery. You know, you swapped my battery out, and the one you put in is not blah, 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 blah. And what happens to the value? I mean, I'm guessing that they could track batteries using some QR code or scan. They scan them, and it's pack number 35 and chassis number 42 and whatever. But the way that Americans feel about ownership of their vehicles, I didn't know if they would. Scandinavia, slightly more, sharing.
But also, the battery ownership thing might not be a problem, because if you can hot swap it, then the life of the battery doesn't, like if you resell it, you don't have to go, this is a 90%er, you don't buy my neighbor's 70%er, because you're just going to swap them anyway.
Could be. Yeah, could be. And maybe the cars are all leased. Maybe you don't own, maybe you
I
don't
didn't
own,
dig that far.
Yeah,
into
maybe
it.
you don't own them anyway. Yeah. Okay. So Hot Swap does exist in Norway. Good note. Let's go to the Patreon. We've got a whole bunch here. Of course, if you want to ask questions on the show, if you want to get the show early, if you want an ad-free listening experience, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. Plus, you get to support your favorite podcast people. Joe Rogan. What? No. And of course, our merch store at thesmokingtireshop.com, or go to thesmokingtire.com and click on the merch tab is up. Let's see. Darian Lux, new patron here. Can you list which country made the best cars by decade going back to the 60s? Okay, so the 2010s.
Oh,
I
country,
think,
not brand.
Country.
Okay.
The 2010s, I think, Germany.
Ooh, yeah.
The Germans.
Yeah, or 2000s could also be Germans.
I think 2000 to 2010 could also be the Germans. Maybe.
I would go Germans from 2000 to 2010.
Yeah.
And then I think I'd go America 2010 to 20, and Japan in the 90s.
I don't feel the need. I don't owe America anything here. I think.
No, I don't either. But I think
Germany, the last two.
Okay.
And I think 80s and 90s was both Japan.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah. American cars in the 80s were bad.
Yeah.
For so many reasons.
I might even go this far and say current decade, 2020s, Korea.
Ooh.
Hyundai and Kia are doing very well.
I think they're doing really well with entry-level sports cars and like entry-level luxury. Mm-hmm. Like their normal cars are great. If I go enthusiast cars, I mean Hyundai's doing a great job. Kia Stinger was okay. But
okay, how about this? Current one is Korea, 2020s. 2010s, Britain. You've got McLaren's finally becoming good. Mm-hmm. You've got the current gen Bentley GT and Flying Spur, exceptional.
Right.
You've got the Rolls Royce beginning with the whole Phantom line and then coming out with the Ghost, the Wraith, and the Dawn, all fucking badass. You've got the resurrection of Range Rover starting in 2013, and then the Range Rover Sport. Those started being good. Right? The Velar is good. You've got the Jaguar F-Type and F-Pace. I'm going Britain.
Yeah,
2010 to 2020, Britain coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Germany 2000 to 2010.
For sure.
Yeah.
Porsche, Mercedes,
BMW, crushing. All of them crushing in that decade.
Yeah. 80s, R8, twin turbo V8s came out.
All of them. Yeah. 80s, 90s.
Japan.
Definitely.
Like zero argument.
70s. Nobody was making anything good in the 70s. 70s.
Italy? At least the cars were pretty.
What was good in the 70s? Italy.
That's what you're right.
You got Countach. You've got Ferrari Daytona and Boxer. You've got, you got Lancia doing some interesting stuff. Although maybe that might have been more 80s. Oof, the 70s is real tough. Nobody was really doing anything great in the 70s.
Because our horsepower was ending. Like
America
was 71,
trash.
It got bad.
Yeah, our shit was junk. I mean,
I think Italy for excitement.
Probably,
Honda and Japan started moving in to cars and being like showing up in Ford. Oil crisis was great for them. Mm-hmm. That was an impressive time, but the cars weren't exciting. Mm-hmm. They're just respected.
Yeah, I guess it's got to be Italy. And you know what? America in the 60s that's an easy one.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But also, those cars were not built well. Those were built really badly.
Nothing was built well.
I've driven some European sports cars from the 60s where I was shocked at the quality.
Restored or unrestored, though?
I would say Germany, a 60s Porsche, a 60s Mercedes were built really, really nicely.
Yeah, but I'm still going to go America in the 60s because the sheer diversity of exciting cars, from muscle cars to sports cars to Ford GT40, Daytona Coupe,
oh, that's true.
Shelby,
Shelby,
and you had Mustang. You had the pony car thing. There's just too many.
Yeah, I would say, that's overwhelmed. Those are shit boxes.
But they were fun. They were fun at the time.
Yeah, there's a flood of American cars. That's true.
The Baja 1000 was like a thing. Yeah,
okay, I'll give America to the 60s. Okay. All right, there we go. Joe, would you consider a limited edition run of Notice Canyon's collab with the Dial artist? Yes, we have. Stay tuned. Sean says, drove a Porsche 718 GTS 4-liter and loved it, but they're out of my price range. How close does a well-spec'd 981 Cayman S get to the GTS 4.0 experience? Reasonably close. I mean, the overall vibe is the same. The sound will be similar. The feel will be similar. Not quite as fast. Not as much torque. Not quite as refined, but the overall vibe will be the same. Yeah, you'll get close. It's a good stepping stone for sure.
Do some mods maybe, and then
Brian Lewis says, can you think of any music videos that have good cars in them? Throttle House just reminded me about the Cosmic Girl video with JK's cars in them. Fuck, the Crazy, Aerosmith Crazy. Remember the one with Alicia Silverstone and Liv Tyler ripping the Fox Body convertible, ripping donuts?
Is that I don't remember the car. I remember her like bungee jumping or
Fox
whatever
Body convertible, yep. And also, of course, Ice Ice Baby with the original Fox Body convertible. How do you not fucking have that?
I'm just laughing because like we can't think of any cars. I can't think of any cars in music videos, and you can't think of any besides Fox Bodies.
Well, those are the ones that stand out.
Those are the important ones.
It's been a long time since I've really watched too many music. Oh, I mean the Otis video, the Jay-Z and Kanye one, where they fucking cut up the Maybach with the torch.
That was cool.
And are fucking ripping donuts and shit.
They cut the doors off
at
and
El
stuff.
Toro. Yeah, I really like that video a lot. That's an excellent video.
That was rad.
It's Otis, right?
Oh, the song?
The song is called Otis, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
That one's excellent. There's
This thing's awesome.
The Maybach is fantastic.
I mean, it's like Mad Max luxury, you know?
Yeah.
Like cut the fenders off, then made fenders out of bare steel, and like this weird wing thing happened in the back.
They turned the doors into the wing
awesome.
thing, and then they put the trunk lid on the hood.
It looks pretty cool.
It does look cool.
Oh man.
That looks like a very dangerous video to shoot. Those girls are like barely strapped in.
She got a seatbelt, and they've got door bars.
A low door. Yeah, because
bar.
imagine the flex on that.
Yeah,
it's probably so sketchy. That's my favorite music video car, I think.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. There's probably some other ones, but I don't remember. Nathan Reynolds says, there seems to be a lot of misinformation and confusion about Ferrari sending cease and desists and suing customers for making modifications in the past. Can you give us information as to what actually causes a Ferrari cease and desist? The only time I've ever seen that is not when people modify the car, is when they modify the badge. Like when Deadmau5 changed Ferrari to Ferrari with the Nyan cat and changed the badge. And also he did it pretty publicly. Like if he just did that on his own car, I doubt anybody would care. I mean, he did it on his own car, but if he just like didn't post about it, it wasn't the wrap. It was the...
He changed the...
Yeah, he changed the badges to cats.
To a cat.
Yeah, which, by the way, my birthday party T-shirt is also that. And then on the back, the letters Ferrari, the metal badge, he changed that to Ferrari.
But, I mean, I'm still surprised you can get sued for that. Like I saw a Bentley that had a Hyundai badge on it just for a joke, and like, neither of those companies cares.
Yeah. Go scroll down. Let's see why this person who wrote this, they didn't like it because they changed the badge. That's it. And then what's this other one say? Philip Pline, who did something with a car. What did he do? Keep going down. They thought their brand was distastefully exploited. Okay, well, he used his car as a prop, for a fashion photo shoot wearing his clothes, and then they drive cars with his Philip Plein liveries around. Okay.
Wow, but Ferrari won the case. They won 300,000 euros.
Yeah, they would. Well, look at the photos. I mean, the photo is just these like bikini chicks on the fucking car. So like,
right. But
I mean, if they were used for commercial purposes in that way, that could be why.
That's true. Whenever if you see an ad and there's a car in it that's not the car company advertising their car, the badge will usually be taken off, blurred out, something like that.
I mean, we've done ads for fucking things completely unrelated to stuff.
True.
We've shot ads for Instagram, we've shot ads for YouTube, and just in WCCS, and they have asked us to blur out all car badges.
Right.
And we're like, we do it because it's part of the contract, but between you and I, we're like, well, this is kind of dumb. Who cares? But this is exactly why.
Yeah, there's a law somewhere that says that you need clearance from the company to use their brand in a commercial ad.
So in these two cases, you've got Dead Mouse, who publicly posts his car, and he changed the badges from the horse to something else.
I still can't believe they sued for that.
Well, and then in other cases, this guy used the Ferraris probably with badges visible for a commercial purpose. And then there's that other one, Jim Glickenhaus, go back to 2006, where he rebodied the Enzo, right? He took the body off of his Enzo and it was the P45, and had Pininfarina put a Jason Castriota designed body on it that was a sort of retro future version of their P34. And Ferrari would not let him put the Ferrari badge back on it. And I don't remember what he did, whether he appealed to them or whether there was a legal thing, but he did go back and eventually was able to put the Ferrari badge on it. But those are the cases that come to mind. I don't know of anyone someone who's just put a body kit or a turbo kit or I've never heard of cease and desist anything about that. But the other ones they're sensitive, but I understand the commercial one particularly.
The commercial one I totally understand.
Yeah.
Changing Ferrari to Ferrari.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they care.
I'm surprised they care as well, but they did. So whatever. Stu Dog says, I'm narrowing down my options for a new daily driver, landed on a 2015 Civic Si, and went back and watched a few of your old videos. I did a review of one, and yes, I was in fact wearing the Donald Trump racing helmet. That helmet I got in 2010 when he was hosting The Apprentice, and I thought it was silly, and then I retired it at the end of 2015 because you know why. It became unfunny very fucking quickly. Throw some D's on it. Oh, I think this one might be could be a bigger topic later.
Cool.
Top, most and least favorite Indy 500 pace cars. We'll hold that and make that an expanded topic later. Bad Gardener says, was the F50, Ferrari F50, always cool in your mind? I didn't think about it until the Harris F40 F50. I thought the F50 was always cool. There were people... I remember at the time when that car came out and shortly afterward, there were people that did not like the F50, but I did.
I was not as into it when it first came out. There was just something about the round design that I didn't like as much. Like the 355 I thought was stunning, and that was a little bit more angular. And then I saw the F50 and I was like, the organic shape thing doesn't work. But like this guy said, when I watched Chris's video and watched some others, and I go, oh, now I learn more about it and understand how special it is. And I like the engine more than I like the F40, and it seems like a more exciting thing to drive. Totally came around.
Yeah, I did always think it was cool, but I realized that I may be in the minority there. But I did like them, yeah. Crouton says, do the Cabriolet and Targa air-cooled 911s have noticeable flex compared to the coupes? The coupes are out of my price range. So, yes, but it's not that bad. It's mainly if you go over some harsh bumps, there's a little bit of jiggliness. But not that bad. It wouldn't, if the idea of it being a convertible, like the Targa's better, because the Targa, when you put the roof on, it holds it pretty tight. The convertible, it's kind of all the time. So like a Targa, if you can afford a Targa, I think that's the happiest medium. But in terms of wanting to get a 911 and not, like, if you're budget conscious and shopping for a 911 and you think you might want to drive with the top down, you can save money and get a great 911 that's a convertible that'll still be really nice to drive.
Didn't we find on Auto Tempest last week, like, a 997 convertible that was cheap. Tens of thousands of dollars cheaper than a equivalent?
Yeah, they are.
It's a quick car, and that one would have much stiffer structure than an air-cooled. I mean, I know it's different, but yeah.
I completely agree. If you want a 911 and you want to save some money on it, get a convertible. I mean, it's still very enjoyable. They're great cars. They're a lot of fun. If you never put the top down, then, well, that's a waste. But if you want to put the top down some of the time, they're lovely. I'm pro convertible. Kevin King says, I want to buy, the GX550 Overland, but I want it mainly for looks. I live in Texas. I have a long straight highway commute. I'll take it off-road occasionally. Does the 550, yes. I think I answered this thoroughly. Justin Hobbs says, I make vinyl records for a living. Do you think people would buy records with car sounds on them?
I think that's a very small market.
Probably not. My question is probably not. Gunnar Ray, watch question. Watch dial question. So far, I've got black, green, pink, red, gray, and cyan. What else should I go for? Yellow or orange, I would say. Also, maybe hang on for another release of the Canyon this summer. We might have something for you. Let's see. This one's a long one. That's why I'm reading it. Aiden says, okay, manufacturers are pushing for EVs and hybrids, which have less emissions and look good on paper. But if car companies push consumers to buy a new EV every 10 years or so instead of trying to innovate battery replacement technology, doesn't that negate any positives of reduced emissions? The idea is to produce millions and replace them more frequently than we replace ICE cars. Isn't that the very definition of greenwashing? There's a few things in here. After we were talking about G-Wagons, the electric G-Wagons and the life of batteries, et cetera, someone emailed me, and I'm sorry for forgetting your name, but they were an expert in the field. And they basically said, when a car rolls out of the factory, EVs is much dirtier than gas, right? Because the manufacturing of the EV is really dirty.
Yeah.
The more miles you drive the car, the EV becomes cleaner, right? Because the EV is zero. And then when you go to dispose of the car, it's sort of similar because portions of the battery can be recycled, cells can be recycled, and then the structure of the car is the same, whether you're both, right? So maybe slightly dirtier if you can't recycle all of the battery, but it's basically like if you're going to drive a car a lot of miles, having an EV is much cleaner than a gas car. If you're not going to drive it very many miles, which is one of the then having a gas car is actually total life cycle cleaner. So that's why actually a good argument for letting us have our weekend sports cars be gasoline, because they're frequently driven much less miles than commuter cars, et cetera, et cetera. This Aiden's question here makes a few assumptions. One is that car companies are pushing consumers to buy a new EV every 10 years. I mean, car companies want to sell cars, period.
Yeah. That's why they do 2-year leases.
Yeah. So I don't see that. The car companies are not trying to encourage people to hang on to their gas cars for 20 years. They're trying to sell cars, period. So they're not trying to get people to buy an EV necessarily more often than they would have with a gas car. They're trying to sell cars. That's their job. And also, it does seem like and we talked to our friend Ali about this, that when a battery is properly thermally managed, that it's lasting longer than we originally thought it would back in 2012 and 2013.
Right, and I think it was the early 10s, the batteries didn't have that thermal management.
Right.
Even some of the Teslas, and then they evolved, and all the other companies kind of adopted the same idea.
Right.
Or developed a similar idea to thermally manage the battery.
Right. And so there's, EVs can, in a local way, clean up urban air quality, right? Because there's no tailpipe emissions, and that's localized. And then if you're driving them a lot, then it is apparently, according to experts, total life cycle cleaner. If you buy an EV and then only put 1,000 miles on it a year, and then get rid of it in 10 years with 5,000 miles on it, that's not very clean. That would probably be greenwashing. Or I don't know if it's greenwashing per se, but it's not clean. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So that's why I don't want to be forced into electric sports cars that are only driven 1,000 or 1,200 miles a year. I don't think McLaren and Ferrari and Lamborghini should be forced into EVs, because the average mileage driven a year for each of those cars is probably 10 to 20% of what is driven in a regular car.
Well, I think the greenwashing thing would be someone at, let's say, the top of economic food chain who they do a new car every year or two. They do a lease. So if they are leasing a new luxury EV or any EV really frequently, and then, yes, those cars get cheaper and then the secondary market buys them. But at a certain point, you hit a bottleneck where third and fourth buyers don't have the charging at home because they live in an apartment or something. So there's probably going to be a bottleneck for those EVs. And that might be a situation where we end up with the greenwashing.
Yeah. Yeah. Big Ben, I recently acquired a nearly free commuter car from a family member. And as a result, I'm in the market for a spicy weekend fun car. I need a back seat, $50K to spend, manual preferred. Thinking previous generation M2, maybe 1LE Camaro. Other thoughts? Well, those are two good options. Mm-hmm. Porsche 997, particularly convertible, that gets you a ton of that. Possibly even a 991 generation convertible if it's a base Carrera.
Kids might like that. Top down was very cool when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. But also, Camaro will sound awesome if you're sitting in the back seat as a youngster.
Yeah. He does say he wants to avoid Mustangs, as I just cycled through one and want something different.
If you just went through a Mustang, I would go German to have a different flavor.
Sure.
Because the Camaro is a great car, but kind of similar fundamentally.
Yeah. I mean, those are two great choices you've got there. If you filter by 2+2, there's not a ton of options. I mean, $50K will get you a DB9. You want a V12?
Whoa.
You save some for maintenance, but if you want a V12 Aston, $50K will get you in the game.
That's pretty rad.
Could be rad.
Yeah. Yeah. That would blow minds.
Kids would like that.
I think the 911 convertible is a good halfway because it's like exotic-ish brand, but not as finicky as an Aston. And the repair costs aren't as crazy.
Yeah. Scroll down, Zach. Let's do Ryan's, and then that will be the end. We'll save the rest for the next show. Okay. Hang on a minute. Is this... There's a long question here. Okay. Is the E60 M5 enough of a special experience for a weekend road trip, mild back roads car in NorCal for more than a year? Or is the novelty of that wear off and it becomes another 5 Series? You get $20K for as a nice one. It seems like decent value even if you budget for the big maintenance items. I never loved these cars, even when they were new. There are people that do love them, and they're really fast in a straight line, and they sound pretty cool with the right exhaust setup. V10s are cool. But they just never did it for me. They always felt a little soft, a little kind of big and bulky,
I don't think this runs the risk of becoming just another 5 Series, but only because the engine is special. Even amongst the M5 lineage, it is the only time they did the V10.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. Like I thought they looked weird, and I think also the back roads in NorCal tend to be tight. They don't have a lot of really open sweeper stuff. Like if you're talking about the Santa Cruz Mountains area or similar topography, that's not the car for it. I mean, an M3 is like as big as I would want on those kinds of roads. I think that is an M5, or sorry, that car is for really big sweepers like Nevada or maybe Upper Big here.
That's a highway
or
racer.
Highway shit.
That car, that's 100 to 200 mile an hour car.
It's gonna feel heavy. I mean, it is heavy. It's gonna really feel like it on those roads. It'll sound good, but I think you'll be 5 turns in behind anything smaller, and you're gonna go, oh.
We had these at Gotham. We had M5s and M6s when they were new, like when they were brand new cars. I drove them a ton. They were really, really fast. But when I stopped driving them, when I stopped working there and I never thought about them again. I was never like, you know what was great? That car. Whereas the E39 M5, I think, has other characteristics that are very engaging. I don't love them, and they're really expensive to maintain. Really, really expensive to maintain, which is why they're so cheap. People are fucking. I mean, God help you what you find in there for a $15,000 V10 powered M5. Like,
right.
Yikes. So, like, I would say no. I'd rather have an E92 M3.
Yep.
Maybe a sedan if you can find one. That's where I'd go.
That gets you plenty of the way there.
Yeah,
and
more,
sounds distinct.
Sounds good, more agile.
Yep.
You know.
Still have 4 doors. I would do that.
Yeah. All right, that's our show. All the next questions will roll over to the next one. We got this is crazy, but on Friday, we've got Jim Farley, CEO of Ford. He's not going to be here. He's calling in from Detroit, but it's kind of a big get. Kind of impressive. Cool. So we're gonna give him the hard hitting questions. I mean, I actually do have a couple hard-ish hitting questions I'd like to ask him, but we're also going to talk about vintage racing because he goes out and vintage races GT40s and Cobras and shit, which is pretty sweet.
What a champion!
Guy
awesome.
Rules. Yeah. And not often you get a car company CEO, especially not fucking Ford. So so that'll be interesting. That's Friday afternoon at 1:45 p.m. Pacific time. Join us then, and we'll hold your questions over until I'd like to say I'll do Patreon questions for the Jim Farley episode, but I have a feeling because I think we have 45 minutes with him that we probably won't get to questions. Maybe if we'll put the thing up, and if there's 1 or 2 like great ones in there, we'll try to do it. And maybe if it's going really well, we'll convince him to not look at the clock and stick around a little overtime. But I don't anticipate being able to do a lot of questions with Jim, but it's going to be fun. So we'll see you on Friday, and drive safe out there, folks. Don't cross the double yellow. Bye.